Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Becky and I like to read. Today I am starting a new themed reading vlog. August is Amblyopia Awareness Month. If you don't know what amblyopia is, it is commonly referred to as lazy eye. As somebody with amblyopia, I wanted to spread awareness about it and I wanted to connect it to my love of reading somehow. So that is what I am going to do today. Amblyopia is a visual impairment in which one eye's muscles aren't as strong as the other, so it tends to wander out or in, and it sends mixed messages to your brain. So when you see your eyes take in light, it sends messages to your brain, and your brain translates that and sends it back to you saying, this is what you're seeing. And when you have amblyopia, the messages your brain is getting is your one eye is seeing something here, the other eye is often seeing something here, so the images don't match up, which can lead to blurred vision, double vision, discoloration, a lack of depth perception, and so on. Amblyopia is treatable if it is caught in very early stages. We're talking like preschool aged children is when it needs to be caught. So if you work with children or you have children and you ever notice a child's eyeballs are fluttering or they're moving all over the place, they can't stay still, or one eye is drifting, please get them into an eye specialist and ask about amblyopia and its treatments. Because the sooner kids can be patched or offered visual therapy, the sooner they can get treatment for that, and that will vastly determine how their eye health progresses as they get older. The most common form of treatment is patching, like I said, and that's where you would put a patch over the strongest eye, so that will cause your weaker eye to focus directly. I only grew up wearing glasses, and I was a kid who didn't wear my glasses as often as I should have because kids are cruel and kids called me names and I didn't like that, so I didn't wear my glasses as often as I should have. However, nobody told my parents until well into my teens that they should have patched my eye, and by that time my brain had already developed thinking that the way I saw the world was the way that everybody saw the world. So it was too late for me to take advantage of patching, and so my lazy eye never got fixed. And with my amblyopia, it has led to many a vision problem. The most common are astigmatism and nearsightedness, but on top of that, I also have a lack of depth perception, which is obvious if you ever see me walk downstairs. I can't tell where the edge of stairs are. I often trip off curbs because I can't tell where the edge of the curb starts and the street begins. Walking is not my friend, which is ironic because I really love hiking, so it's a chore. It also led me to having light-sensitive eyes. If you know me in real life, I will often be wearing my sunglasses indoors where there's bright fluorescent lights. I will also wear sunglasses when it is overcast outside because there's just too much light for my eyes to take in. It's also led to me having mild color blindness. I cannot differentiate dark colors very well. I often get dark blue, black, dark purple, dark greens all mixed up. So if I'm ever wearing something that doesn't match, chances are it's because I think it matches and I just can't tell what color I'm wearing. This also happens with orange and neon pink. I love neon pink, and oftentimes I will buy something thinking it's neon pink and then somebody will be like, that's orange. All that being said, it leads up to me having a very shitty eyesight. With glasses, I am right above the cutoff of being legally blind. Like if this is 20/20 vision, this is legally blind, and this is completely blind, I am right here with glasses. Without glasses, I am legally blind. It's really hard for me to find books with visually impaired main characters because when I type in Google visually impaired book characters, books featuring characters with visual impairments, that sort of thing, I always come up with blind main characters. That's what Google gives me, is the blind lists, because there are a plethora of books out there with blind characters in them. However, I am not blind. I am visually impaired, so how I see the world is not the same as somebody who has no vision at all. I wanted to read books about characters with visual impairments, but I had some qualifications of books that I wanted to read. I didn't want to read any middle grade or young adult books because those tend to be where I find most of the books about characters with visual impairments. I feel like middle grade and young adult do a really good job of representing people with disabilities more so than other genres. So when I was looking for books, my goal was to find adult fantasy or adult romance books with people with visual impairments. I also wanted to try and find books with female main characters with visual impairments, because I've read a handful of books with male characters with visual impairments. Dark Lover by J.R. Ward, Wrath is slowly losing his vision. Gazzy from the Maximum Ride series, he is blind. Serapio from Black Sun loses his vision due to a sacrifice. And Lucian from The Court of Thorns and Roses only has one eye. But with all of these characters, I've never really been able to relate to them. I've never had the same feelings or experiences or thoughts as these characters, because most of these characters, while they are blind for the most part, they have some sort of paranormal ability that sort of makes up for their blindness. Be it they're a vampire, so they have like super smell, super hearing, they're super fast. Or Serapio, he can see through the eyes of his crows. Or Lucian, he has a sort of bionic eye. Or Gazzy, he's probably the most relatable because he's just super smart, but the kid can fly. And I can't relate to any of that. The only character who I have ever related to within a book has been the male best friend from The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher. I cannot remember his name, but he has a lack of depth perception. And when I read that, that was the very first time where I was ever like, oh my god, I relate to this character so much. He would say things and be like, you know I can't see that. And I'm like, yes, I feel that. I understand. So that is the only character who I have ever related to when it comes to my visual disability. And I'm also looking for books that don't have corny, cliche, blind titles just because the main character happens to be blind. You get things like Blind Fall, Love is Blind, Blinded by Love, Blind-Sighted, Blind-Spotted, Love at First Sight, Love in Darkness, all these things, and I'm just like, no, I don't want to read any of those books with those corny, cliche titles. Like, if your main character was in a wheelchair, what title would you put on your book? Would you be like, Wheeled into Love? No, that's a horrible title. I just want to read a book that isn't so in your face, oh, this character is blind, so we have to put blind in the title, or eyes in the title, or sight in the title, or something to that effect. So those are my 3 caveats for this reading vlog. Adult books, hopefully a female main character, and not any with blind or sight or a vision or any of those descriptors in the title. So with that being said, let's get on to this reading vlog. Hi, weird spot to check in, but I am about to take the dog for a walk and I wanted to give you an update while I'm putting my shoes on. I found Just Like Breathing to read, and this does have a male blind character in it. So it checks off 2 of the things that I was looking for. It's an adult contemporary romance, and it doesn't have a corny title to it. This is about a woman named Arden who lost her husband and her son in a car accident, and she has just gotten out of a 9-month-long coma, so she is dealing with a lot of trauma and PTSD from that situation. And she ends up literally running into a man named Flash. Is that his name? I just started reading it, so I can't really remember his name. I think it's Flash. But he just lost his vision in a motorcycle accident. So he is trying to learn how to re-navigate his world as a blind man with a guide dog. And that's where I'm at currently. So one thing I did like about this setup of this story is when looking for books with visually impaired blind main characters, reading some synopsis, I found several where the authors made their male main characters lose their vision through military experience. They lost their eyesight in Afghanistan while serving, or Iraq while serving, and things like that. Lots of books have that in their synopsis, and I think that's just a very easy way to give your main characters vision loss. And our hero was in active duty. He was a Air Force pilot, and I was kind of wondering if that's the avenue that this author would take in causing him to lose his eyesight. But no, he lost it in a motorcycle accident. So that was a nice segue from a lot of the synopsis that I read. As of now, I am liking it. The romance really hasn't started yet. They've just met each other, but they are two people who have experienced traumatic events in their lives, and they are trying to work through those. So I'm assuming a romance will develop soon. So I will check in with you once I am done. I can't believe how many leaves are already falling. This is an example of a day where you wouldn't think I would need to wear sunglasses, and I could probably get away with wearing my normal glasses out here. But if I wear my sunglasses, it makes things darker, and it's easier for me to tell, like, if the sidewalk is uneven or something like that, so that I don't trip over something. Show you what I do for my Kindle so that it makes it easier for me to read, because I have been asked in my life, how do you read so many books if you have such bad eyesight? So I love my Kindle because it is very customizable. This is typically what you would see on a Kindle when you first start it. This is the white background with the very small font. I can't read that. So what I do is I customize my font. I will turn it from a white background to a black background, first of all, but that font is still awfully tiny, so I have to, oops, wrong one. I have to increase it to about there so that I can read the books. And on top of that, I have to hold it about that close to me in order to read it. I also have to adjust the brightness of it because depending on where I'm at, I cannot read outside for the life of me because of my light sensitive eyes. Reading outside, be it physical book or ebook, gives me a headache, so the only thing I can do outside is listen to audiobooks. But if I'm in a very dark room, I will have to put my brightness down to really low, which is how I read in bed at night. Or if I'm in a semi-bright room, then I have to up it to about there. But those are the ways that I customize my Kindle in order for me to be able to read it and read it at a decent rate. This does increase the amount of pages that it takes for me to get through a book, but I read pretty quickly when it is suitable to my eyes. Okay, so that was a really quick book that I finished. It took me no time at all to read. I think I really got into the story, so that's why it took me no time at all. So I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I really liked the romance, and I liked the story, and I liked the characters separately and together. I thought they were a very mature couple. They communicated really well. They helped one another through their traumas, and Flash was very understanding of Arden's need to take things slow because she had lost her husband and her son, and so she was still processing that, but he was there for her. He never pressured her or anything like that. Most romances have like the third act conflict that the couples have to get through, and I felt like this one was a very odd choice. It just didn't seem like that big of a deal, and it was blown out of proportion more than it needed to be, and it was resolved rather quickly. So I felt like that detracted from the overall enjoyment of the story. As far as if I connected to the character or if I felt any of the same feelings or thoughts that Flash had, sadly, no, not really. He is a rather wealthy character, and so he has the ability to hire his own chauffeur, which that is like my freaking dream. If I could hire a personal chauffeur to be at my beck and call to drive me where I want to go, when I want to go, and not have to rely on like public transit schedules or Uber schedules or other people's schedules, that would be the dream right there. I felt like his attitude toward losing his eyesight was pretty realistic. I felt like he got over it rather quickly, but he did have some anger issues toward it, and he did experienced some difficulties transitioning from being able to see to not being able to see. But again, it was a really quick transition and he did it fairly seamlessly, which I don't feel is super realistic, but at least there was some difficulties in there that he portrayed. About the only thing I felt in common with him was the hatred of having to rely on other people for things. That I can relate to, because I hate relying on people for things when it comes to my vision. I don't want to rely on other people because of my visual disability, but thus is life, and I've had to learn to accept that that is a limitation I have, and I have to rely on people for that. So that is the only thing that I could really relate to with Flash, but a good book, good romance, and one I would recommend. Hello, so I finished my second book for this reading vlog. It's been a day or two since I finished it, and I'm just getting around to sharing it with you now. So I read Clarity. This is a very short, like, novella length book. It is the first in a series, I believe, of novella length books. It is about a girl named Helen who was born with a genetic mutation that caused her to be born blind. And in the very first chapter of the book, she is in college and she just lost her mother, so she's very upset by that. And she ends up lost, and this guy comes along and he's very nice to her and he tries to help her, but he ends up raping her. So there is a very, it's not a detailed, but it is a very intense rape scene right in the beginning of the book. And then 3 years later, she has pretty much separated herself from society because she just doesn't trust people anymore. She is living in a cabin in the New Hampshire woods when these two doctors come by to visit her, and they are trying to convince her to take part in a gene therapy study that will potentially give her her sight back. And she's very iffy about this situation. But eventually she agrees to do it if they will drive her to her sister's wedding in New York the next day. But her sister is a very manipulative, self-centered person, so she has no idea what happened to her sister. Her sister never told her, and she never bothered to like dig deeper into what happened to her 3 years prior. And her sister is trying to set her up with somebody in her wedding party. So Helen comes up with the idea to fake a relationship with one of the doctors to get her sister off her back, and the story progresses from there. So I ended up giving this one 3 stars. I liked Helen's character in the sense that she was willing to give something a chance even if she thought the outcome might not be great. I wish I had that ability, quite honestly, but I am somebody who looks on the negative side because I don't like getting my hopes up and having them crashed. That's happened way too often in my life. I liked the blind representation in this, that she was born blind, that something didn't happen to her to make her blind. Although, because this is the first book in this series, I'm assuming at some point she will get her sight back. But I don't plan to continue reading this series. I also really liked the friendship between the two doctors who come to visit her. They seemed very buddy-buddy, and they seemed like they had a good friendship. The twist ending, I guessed that right away, so it wasn't that impactful for me. I also didn't like that these characters are supposed to be mid to late 20-year-olds, and they came off very juvenile. They talked like they were teenagers. About the only thing I could really relate to Helen on was the fact that in the very beginning of the book, she says that she doesn't like to be treated differently, and she never wants to be treated differently because of her disability. And I can totally relate to that. Up until I was in 7th grade, I was on an IEP, which is an individualized education plan. And that allowed me to get accommodations with my schooling. It allowed me extra time on tests. It allowed me to get like blown up versions of the tests so that I could see what I was doing. It allowed me to get large print books to take it home so I didn't have to take the actual textbooks home with me and things like that. However, I was never part of an inclusion classroom where I got to stay in the classroom and be treated like all the other kids. I was always taken out of the classroom to a different classroom. And kids noticed this because for some reason my aides, my teachers, were never discreet about this. Anytime somebody would come and pull me out of class, they announced it. And it was embarrassing. And kids made fun of me for that. So when I was in 7th grade, I got tired of being made fun of and treated like I was different. And I didn't like that feeling. So I pretty much made the decision for myself to be taken off an IEP, and I was never on an IEP from 8th grade on. So I understand Helen not wanting to be treated differently and not wanting people to treat her differently because of her disability. That's the only thing I could relate to within this scenario. It's not one that I would ever remember to recommend to people. If it sounds like something that would intrigue you, definitely check it out. It does have good blind representation in it, but it's not one that I will continue on with the series. So I am going to move on to my third and final book for this vlog, and hopefully I can relate to the character a little bit more in some sense. Cross my fingers. Here's an example of what I see. This is what my camera sees, really clear. If I put my glasses up to it, this is what I see with glasses. It's probably blurrier than normal just because my hand is shaking. But if you take it away, this is what I see without glasses. Hello again. I have been bad at updating. So I found and I finished Impossible Things. So this checked off all three of the things I was looking for a book for this vlog. It is an adult fantasy, it has a blind female character, and it doesn't have a corny title. So this is an adult fantasy romance, although I would say it skews more fantasy than romance. The romance takes a while to get to within the story, and it's not the central plot, I guess, of the story. But this is about a warlord named Kale who, when visiting this territory, he is offered a slave girl as pretty much to have sex with for the night. And he meets this young woman who is very meek, very shy, she's blind, and he notices that she has markings on her body, and he knows what these markings are. They mark her as a chosen, and she's not just any chosen, she is a thrice-timed chosen. She has the marks of a seer, of a healer, and a warrior. So he knows that she is very important. So he helps her escape, and he takes her to safety where she can train to develop her abilities. She is attracted to him, but she's very... She really doesn't know how to allow somebody to touch her because she was raped so frequently when she was a slave. So while she is attracted to him, she doesn't know how to go about overcoming that. And he is very attracted to her, but he doesn't want to treat her like any of the people who have treated her before. He really wants to just be kind to her. I gave this book 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. It was just a random find that I found when searching for visually impaired blind main characters. I think I found it on a Goodreads list. And I was like, ooh, that cover looks good. The synopsis sounds good. And it says it's a fantasy romance, so I'm sold. I really liked Ishtel's character growth. She went from being this very meek and subservient and unsure of herself girl to being this very confident and independent woman. I liked that it was a slow burn romance. It takes a while to get to the romance of this story. I really liked the narration of this audiobook. I thought it was really well done. The narrator inflicted her voice for different characters. And I liked that it was a standalone as well. There's not a real strong plot, which I didn't mind, but I know that would be a drawback for some people. I also felt like they were a tad angsty for me. They could have communicated a little bit better. They often had tiffs, and then she would get mad at him and he would get mad at her. And I was just like, come on, people. Communicate just a little bit better. She was the character I related to the least, simply because this was a fantasy book. And while she's blind, she's very good at fighting. She can see the future. She's great at healing. So she has all these abilities that make up for her being blind. So I had nothing in common with her, but I liked her story overall. I didn't find any new characters who I just related to super strongly, but I'm glad that I read these books, and I would say they all have pretty good blind representation. They all have blind representation in different ways. So if you're looking for a book with blind representation, definitely check these ones out. And before I sign off on this vlog, I did want to mention that I am raising money for Better Vision for Children. I am doing a book stack for a cause over on Instagram, where if you stack up some green books and give it the hashtag BVSEE stack, I will donate $1 for every one of those stacks to Better Vision for Children by the end of August. So I will have my Instagram post linked down below if you want to go check it out, see all the details about it, and create your own stack to help me raise awareness and money for Amblyopia Awareness Month. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope it was a little bit informative about what amblyopia is and my experience having amblyopia. And I hope you liked the blind representation books that I showcased in this vlog. So until my next video, thank you guys so much for watching, and read a book with some blind representation in it for me.